Most people are not keen on going to the dentist. After listening to this podcast, at least you'll be able to understand what the dentist is talking about, if he or she is an English speaker. And if you are a dentist who treats native English speakers, perhaps you can explain the treatment better and put your patients more at ease. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hi, I'm Reza.
And my name's Craig. With more than 60 years of teaching between us, we'll help you to improve your English and take it to the next level. This week, especially if you're a dentist. How are you doing, Reza?
I'm doing pretty well, Craig.
Have you been to the dentist recently?
I went a few weeks ago, actually, because yet again, my retainer had broken. I wear a retainer at night. I will talk about that in more detail. It's a plastic thing, and it keeps breaking on me. So I had it fixed. What about you?
Haven't been for a while, but I think I need to make an appointment and see the dentist soon. I'm not getting any pain, but I think I need to go and have a checkup, and we'll look at all these words a bit later. But first, let me ask you, what is a dentist's favorite idiom?
Favorite idiom? I don't know. What is a dentist's favorite idiom?
You should put your money where your mouth is.
Of course.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So what it really means is, if you're going to talk about something, then do it. Don't just talk about it, do it. But of course, it's a nice play on words, because when a dentist says that, they could be saying, I want your money, pay me. Yeah, open your mouth and pay me.
And let's face it, it's not cheap to go to the dentist in some countries. But first, let's start with some really basic dentist vocabulary. The first thing to look at is teeth, because teeth is the plural noun and it's irregular. We have one tooth. That's the singular noun, T-O-O-T-H, a tooth, and several teeth, or a set of teeth, you could say.
And if you have pain because of your teeth, then we say that you have a toothache. Yeah, we use the singular word rather than teeth, but it could be in more than one tooth. You have a toothache. Your teeth are hurting you.
And be careful of the pronunciation of ache, A-C-H-E. If your back hurts, it's a backache. If your head hurts, it's a headache, etc. Earache. A word that I think is your favourite is stomachache, Reza.
My favourite
Your favourite mispronunciation.
Because it comes out as estomachache.
But it's stomachache or toothache in this case. And if you have a toothcake? What's a toothcake?
I was just thinking, if we pronounce toothache as if it were Spanish, it would be tootache, which isn't bad either. Tootache could also be a South American tribe. You got the estomachache and you got the tootache.
If you do have a toothache, you're very unlucky. It's probably painful. You can say it's painful. It hurts. You could describe the ache. The ache is not as intense or as sharp as a pain, but you could call it a dull ache, which means it's bothering you. It's there. It's always in the background, but it's not a sharp pain. It doesn't feel like someone's putting a knife in your mouth. You can describe pain as being constant. You can have constant pain, which sometimes occurs with toothache, or you can say it comes and goes. If the pain appears and then disappears, then it's a pain that's coming and going. It comes and goes. It's not constant.
Now, if you're sensible, that means if you think, not the Spanish word sensible, that would be a false friend. Not if you're sensitive, but if you're sensible, if you think rationally, you should probably go to see the dentist, I don't know, at least every couple of years, if not every year.
I'd say every year, or maybe every 6 months even.
Perhaps every 6 months. You should go for a regular checkup. A checkup is when the dentist, or it could be a checkup with a doctor as well, just has a general look at you, at everything. All the main things to make sure that your general health is okay. So for a dentist, to make sure that your general dental health is okay, you go for a checkup.
And if you have a toothache, if a tooth is bothering you, it may be because the tooth is bad and it needs to be removed. In formal English, that will be called an extraction because they extract or remove your tooth, an extraction. Although more commonly we'd say to have a tooth out or to have a tooth taken out or to get a tooth taken out. And that verb form is called the causative because you are not taking out the tooth. It's the dentist that's taking out the tooth, we hope. So you're not performing dentistry on yourself. So to have a tooth out, by a dentist. But we don't need to say by a dentist because it's obvious. In the same way that you have your car cleaned or you have your car serviced or you have your flat cleaned by someone, in a similar way you have a tooth out.
Now, if you have a problem with your tooth, but it's not as bad as you thought, maybe you don't have to have it taken out, but you might have to have a filling. So that means that there's a problem, there's some kind of hole has developed, or maybe a crack, a line which is open, so the surface has been broken. So you're going to have a big problem if you don't do something about that. But maybe you don't have to get it taken out. You could have a filling. In other words, you could have a tooth filled. It's filled with material which fills up that hole. So that you don't get an infection, because you have a cavity. A cavity is a space inside your tooth. So you have to fill the cavity or have a tooth filled. You have to get a filling.
Reza, what did the dentist say to the tooth when she had to leave the room?
I don't know. What did he say?
She.
I beg your pardon. What did she say?
I'll fill you in when I get back.
Very good.
Why is that funny or not? Because fill someone in is to give them information. Let me fill you in on the meeting, for example. But of course, you also fill in a tooth that has a cavity. So there's another play on words.
The word braces, usually plural, is a word related to teeth. It has other meanings. To brace yourself is to get ready.
Get prepared.
Get prepared, brace yourself. But braces in your mouth are devices that are used to straighten, to align your teeth, to put them in a straight line. So it's very, very common with kids and with teenagers, but adults as well can get braces to put their teeth into a straight line. You wear braces.
You can have braces on your legs as well, can't you? To straighten them?
Exactly. You can. Yep.
Now, if you want your own personal lawyer to be ready when you need him or her, you could pay them a retainer to keep them by your side, to keep them ready when you need them. But that's not the meaning here, is it, Reza? When I say a plastic or a metal retainer and you use the word retainer before, what does that mean?
Well, yes, I should know because I have both. So a retainer can be plastic, and in that case, it's removable. You can put it in and take it out every day or every night or as often as you like. And you place it over the teeth to keep them into position. In other words, to retain them in position so they do not move. They're often used at night, but retainers can be worn during the day, particularly if you're in the process of having your teeth straightened. And then a metal retainer has the same function, but that's usually permanent. And it's a little strand, like a little bar, a little line of metal, which is fitted behind the teeth. And that's also to keep them in position. So because it's a piece of metal fitted behind the teeth, you don't normally go taking it in and out. It's going to be there for at least a year, but maybe 5 or maybe the rest of your life. That's a metal retainer. But they're both called retainers, although they look quite different. One's plastic, removable, and the other is permanent and metal.
Well, I don't have a retainer, but I do put something in my mouth at night. Don't go there, Reza.
Right.
Don't. I know what you're thinking.
I shudder to think.
It's not a retainer. It's a mouth guard. A mouth guard. One word, it guards my mouth. It's a mouth guard. What's that? Well, it's a protective device for the mouth that covers your teeth and your gums. Your gums, that's the soft fleshy area that hold your teeth in place. Why do I put a mouth guard in my mouth? Because I grind my teeth at night. You might know the word grind to grind coffee, for example. You can also grind flour and other foods. It makes it smaller into like a powder. And I do that with my teeth. I clench my teeth. I push them together with pressure at night. And for that reason, I wear a mouth guard so that my teeth are not worn down. They don't slowly disappear over the years. It protects my teeth.
Well, of course, Craig, you're free to put whatever you like in your mouth at night.
Thank you.
It's just a free country. But I know your very favorite thing to put in your mouth at any time of the night or day, and it's any edible object which has at least 70% cacao. That's the favorite thing for you to put in your mouth, is it not?
That is. I do like cocoa powder, yes. Which, of course, cocoa, another thing you have to grind.
Ah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
There's a word orthodontist, which isn't exactly a dentist. There's a difference. Do you know the difference between a dentist and an orthodontist?
I think dentist is very general, whereas does an orthodontist, do they treat your gums as well? I don't know. I'm not sure, actually.
They could treat your gums, but it's more a specialist that's focused on the alignment and the alignment of the teeth. And I'm sure that when you went to get your retainer fitted, you probably saw an orthodontist, someone who specializes in the jaws. That's the parts of the mouth that goes up and down when you're eating, and the teeth to make sure they're straight and aligned.
Now, Craig, if you go to the dentist, you might be given a crown. But that doesn't mean you've suddenly become a king or queen, does it?
No, it doesn't.
What does it mean?
They're not putting it on your head. They're putting it over a tooth. So a crown, same spelling, C-R-O-W-N, goes on top of a tooth. It's like a cap, and it's used to keep its shape or restore its shape and its size and its strength. So it can also protect the tooth if it's starting to crack, for example, and it's something that's fitted or placed over a tooth.
Now, one thing you don't want to say as soon as you get into a dentist, no matter what your politics are, you don't want to say to the dentist, drill, baby, drill. I wouldn't say that if I were you, because he or she will very happily and make you pay for it. To drill, or it can also be a noun, a drill, the instrument used to drill, is when the dentist makes a hole. It doesn't have to be a dentist. Many people drill. For example, workmen in the street, when they're building and doing things to the street, they drill the street, they drill the road, they make holes in things. So nobody, or only very strange people, in my opinion, enjoy it when the dentist drills their teeth. Not enjoyable. When the dentist gets the drill out, people usually suddenly become very, very, very anxious.
Yeah, not the best sound in the world. Maybe one of the most hated sounds in the world is the dentist's drill. But of course it won't be very painful, because the dentist will probably give you an injection. They inject into your gums some kind of local anesthetic. And when I say local anesthetic, that doesn't mean you don't need to travel anywhere. That just means the injection is localized in a specific area of your body, or in this case, your mouth. And I can remember when I went to the dentist as a kid, we didn't have local anesthetic. We had a general anesthetic, and it was gas. And it was a horrible black rubber mask that went over my nose and my mouth, and it put me to sleep. And then the dentist did what the dentist does, and then I woke up after. So yeah, that was a horrible experience. I much prefer local anesthetic.
Is that the gas which is sometimes referred to as laughing gas?
Well, I didn't think it was very funny. It may have been called laughing gas. I don't know. I don't remember laughing. I just remember like falling asleep. And I remember my mum being next to me, and she always took me afterwards to a toy shop and bought me a little toy to make me happy. Yeah, I was only 21 at the time, so it was quite nice.
Yeah, I think when I was a kid, a mere 20-year-old, I didn't really learn my lessons, because one thing I loved doing immediately after going to the dentist was making myself feel better by immediately going to the sweet shop and buying some sweets. So I don't think I really learned my lesson. So I'd get a filling from eating too many sweets and then like, oh no, this is terrible. I've suffered. The dentist has given me a filling. I'll make myself feel better by eating some sweets. I didn't learn very quickly.
Not the best thing to do because 2 months later you're back at the dentist with more cavities. But the injection, the local anesthetic, makes your mouth or your gums go numb. N-U-M-B. The B is silent. Don't pronounce the B. It's just numb, which means no feeling. To numb the area or to numb your gums or to go numb. That's a common collocation. My mouth went numb after the injection. And gums we had before, that's the soft tissue or flesh in the mouth that holds the teeth in place. Now, there is a condition called gingivitis. Does it only affect people with ginger hair?
No, it's nothing to do with that. Gingivitis is inflammation of the gums. So anybody with any type of hair can get it. In fact, I don't think I have it, but I do occasionally have trouble with my gums. I don't know if they get inflamed, but I do occasionally suffer from bleeding gums. Do your gums ever bleed?
No, only when I floss my teeth and sometimes I cut my gums, but not for no reason.
Yeah. It's a strange thing. Sometimes it can be because you're not looking after your teeth properly, or you could be really unlucky. Like, for example, my niece, my sister's daughter, who has never had a filling in her life. She doesn't like sweet things, so her teeth are in really good condition. But she's lost a couple of teeth because she has problems with her gums. But it's hereditary. She looks after her teeth well. She's never had a filling, and she's 30 years old. But she's lost teeth because of problems with her gums, because of gingivitis. She's just really unlucky.
Yeah, that is unlucky. Let's take a quick break here because I know you listen to this podcast to take your English to the next level. But what about your speaking? Is your fluency improving? Are you happy with your speaking skills? My conversation course focuses on making you a more confident and more fluent English speaker. You'll join me and a small group of motivated students, and we'll meet on Zoom and have topical discussions, role plays, debates, and presentations that will expand your vocabulary and help you express yourself effectively in English. So be proactive and take the first step towards becoming a confident and fluent English speaker. Send me an email today to craig@inglespodcast.com and I'll send you details of the next online conversation course. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the podcast. If you lose all of your teeth or some of your teeth, then you may get false teeth, otherwise known as dentures, D-E-N-T-U-R-E-S. So a set of false teeth, more than one in the same denture. And a question for you, Reza, what do dentures or false teeth have in common with the stars in the sky?
What do they have in common?
They both come out at night.
I like it. Yeah, in fact, you're reminding me of the first time I ever saw my dad's false teeth, and he put them in a glass beside his bed at night. And I'd never really thought about it. I guess I knew he had false teeth, but I'd never really imagined him without his teeth. And I bumped into him in the middle of the night when he was going to the toilet. I was like, oh. It's like, who's this guy? He looks like a monster. It's my dad without any teeth.
Yeah.
And then I saw him go back into the bedroom and I saw the false teeth beside his bed. It alarmed me a little bit. Silly, I know, but I eventually got used to it. But the first time when you're young, you see someone take false teeth out, it's weird, isn't it?
The whole shape of the mouth changes. And yeah, it looks like a different person. It doesn't look like the same person because the shape of the jaw has changed.
I don't know if it might be a Belfast thing. I'm from Belfast, in case any listeners don't know, but it's very common to colloquially refer to false teeth in Belfast as falsies.
You don't have to have false teeth. There are choices these days. In fact, I don't have false teeth. I have 2 implants. Well, what's an implant? An implant, they are teeth that you can permanently fix into the bone of your jaw so that you don't need to remove them and take them out at night. Implants, they're not cheap, but they are another solution if you have to have some important teeth removed. So implant, IMPLANT.
Oh, that's curious. So we're exactly in the same boat. That means we have something in common. I have 2 implants, just the same as you.
Are they at the front or the back?
At the side.
Yeah, me too. Now, you probably know the word bridge. You need a bridge to cross a river or a road. But what's a bridge in the mouth?
So when dentists talk about a bridge, they mean a dental appliance, a piece of equipment, an appliance, piece of apparatus, which is used to replace one or more missing teeth. I think what happens is it's attached to the tooth to the left and the right of the space. I think that's why they call it a bridge. So like there's a bridge in the middle and that's where the false tooth is. Isn't that right?
I think so, yeah. My sister's got a bridge and I think that's exactly what happens. Now, another important word is wisdom or words, wisdom teeth or wisdom tooth. Wisdom, you may know, is the noun of to be wise or to be intelligent or clever, a wise man or a wise woman. What's a wisdom tooth, Reza, and why are they called wisdom teeth?
Well, it's just the same in Spanish, as Spanish speakers know. They're the teeth which you only get when you're more or less an adult.
Or wise.
Or wise. So supposedly...
Maybe.
Supposedly, by the time you get your wisdom teeth, you should be wise. Not everybody knows this, but wisdom teeth can and do appear at any time in your life.
I thought it was mainly when you're an adult, when you're in your 20s at least.
Not any time in your life. You're quite right. It doesn't happen when you're a child. I should have said any time in your adult life. The last time I had trouble with wisdom teeth moving around in my mouth, I was in my 40s. You can be in your 40s and 50s, and your wisdom teeth move around. It can be all of your adult life. It's not just in your 20s, but that's when they generally begin to move about.
And they can be very painful, which is why it's a good idea to have your wisdom teeth removed or taken out.
Don't draw any conclusions, listeners, or do, if you like. I'm just saying I've had 4 wisdom teeth. Some people have 1, some people have 2, 3, 4, some nothing. I've had 4. Draw your own conclusions. That's all I'm saying. True, I really have.
It's like the joke about the stupid man who had the wisdom tooth put in. If you want to see a list of this vocabulary with explanations as well, go to the show notes. It's inglespodcast.com/563. And something we don't often say, but if you do go to the website to check the vocabulary and write down any words that are interesting, you can also sign up for our free newsletter. We send that out every month with news of the podcast and anything else that's going on with us. So inglespodcast.com for the show notes and the free newsletter. Reza, what award did the dentist win?
A plaque?
Very good.
I guessed it. I
Very
guessed that
good.
joke. I saw that one coming.
A plaque. So a plaque or plaque, depending where you come from, I think in the UK, it can be an award. It can be something you put on the shelf because you've won something or achieved something in life. But what is plaque as far as a dentist is concerned?
In dentistry, it's sticky. So, it's hard to take it off. It's a sticky, colorless film of basically bacteria that forms on teeth. So the worse your dental hygiene, the more plaque you're going to have. Although some people look after the teeth really well and they're just naturally prone to a lot of plaque. It's my case, for example. The dentist told me because I followed strictly their instructions, 3 times a day, brushing, incredibly strict, and I get a lot of plaque.
3 times a day you brush?
Yep. The dentist said I should, because I'm very prone to plaque. Some people just are.
Yeah.
And even so, I have to go to a dental hygienist who always goes, oof, that's a lot of plaque, every 6 months. That's how often I have to go to a dental hygienist. So, Craig, what is a dental hygienist?
That's a person who is a licensed dental professional, so it's a qualification, and they are there to clean your teeth, remove the plaque, and provide other services that will help your teeth and keep them healthy, often preventative dental care. So that's care and any kind of attention to prevent you having problems in the future. I only brush twice a day, but I always floss after brushing. Dental floss is a very, very thin material that you move backwards and forwards between your teeth to remove pieces of food that the toothbrush doesn't remove. Curiously, I don't tend to brush my teeth in the morning after breakfast because I don't eat a lot for breakfast. It's just a coffee and some fruit maybe. But I always brush after lunch because I find there's more food in my teeth. I know most people brush when they first get up in the morning, but I don't understand that because
I don't. Not when I first get up. After breakfast, I do brush, but before breakfast seems pointless to me.
You haven't eaten anything. So if you've brushed before you go to bed, why brush in the morning? Doesn't make sense.
In fact, as far as I know, dentists actively tell you not to brush your teeth before breakfast. It's just pointless.
Yeah.
Because you should brush them after breakfast. You're lucky. You said, oh, I just have a bit of coffee, this, that, and the other, and I don't have many problems. There are a few things which stain your teeth and cause plaque as much as coffee. So you're really lucky that you don't have problems. Coffee and tea are amongst the worst things for plaque.
And I drink a lot, so I think I am lucky. Talking of things that are pointless, there's one thing that isn't pointless. It has a point, and that's a toothpick, which is also used to clean your teeth. And a toothpick, you often see them on tables in restaurants. They can be made of wood, although I think wood, they're not particularly good for your gums. Better to use the plastic, softer ones. And they're very, very thin, small sticks that you can use to remove food from between your teeth.
Yeah, these days there are dental toothpicks. So if you just say a toothpick, it's, as Craig said, the thing that the people used to use in restaurants. But now, of course, you can buy things which have been designed by dentists and you buy them in a pharmacy and they'll be plastic. In fact, that's what I use instead of flossing. The dentist told me not to floss. It depends on your teeth. Flossing isn't suitable for everybody. For me, they said, use a dental toothpick, but don't floss. Flossing won't help you. It's because of the shape of my teeth or my gums. For me, it's better to use a dental toothpick.
Speaking of teeth, as we are, toothy is an adjective, Toothy. What does that mean? What's a toothy person?
Well, it's an informal word, and it means having large or perhaps prominent or large and prominent teeth. So some people just look a bit toothy. You rarely notice their teeth when you look at them, particularly if they smile. So a very common collocation would be a toothy grin. A grin, Grin, is a way of smiling. And if it looks a bit silly, if the way someone smiles looks silly, you tend to call it a grin. So imagine somebody with really big teeth and they smile in a silly way. They have a toothy grin.
So we've looked at lots of vocabulary connected to dentistry. Let's have a look at some idioms now connected to teeth. For example, you can fight tooth and nail with someone, which means to fight very fiercely with great determination. For example, now I get on very well with my sister. We have a good relationship. But when we were young and she was a teenager and I was about 9 or 10 years old, we used to fight tooth and nail. We fought like cats and dogs. So to fight tooth and nail is to fight fiercely with great determination.
As I think we mentioned earlier in this podcast, it was a really lovely treat whenever Craig put that chocolate cake beside the coffee, which we had in our break before we recorded this podcast. I couldn't wait to sink my teeth into the chocolate cake. It was delicious. I really got my teeth into it. You can sink or get your teeth into something physically. when you eat something, but it's very often used metaphorically, like when you become deeply involved in a project or activity because it clearly motivates you, you're really enjoying it, so you sink your teeth into it.
Like we've sunk our teeth into podcasting, pretty
Exactly.
much. And another idiomatic expression is to pull teeth. You can say something is like pulling teeth. Obviously, to remove a tooth is quite difficult. You need expertise, training, and special tools to remove a tooth, to take it out. So if something is like pulling teeth, it's really difficult or maybe frustrating to do. For example, imagine you have a teenager, a teenage daughter, a teenage son. Getting them to clean their room is like pulling teeth. Or we have a student who has some ingrained errors, some errors or mistakes they keep repeating. They keep saying, I focus in instead of I focus on, or they say with reference about instead of with reference to. Well, to correct those mistakes after years of saying the same thing, Reza, it's like pulling teeth, isn't it?
Exactly. And I have had students like that who have bitten off more than they could chew. They were people who had ingrained mistakes, as Craig said. They kept making the same mistake. They weren't studying as well as they should. They weren't getting better. They were about a B1 or 2 level. And they said, I'm thinking of doing the proficiency C2. And I said, I wouldn't do that if I were you. You're not really ready. They said, yeah, I think I can. They bit off more than they could chew. They attempted to do something which they couldn't really handle. They were a B1 or 2 level, so they shouldn't have tried the C2 exam. They bit off more than they could chew.
Reza, do you know anyone who has a sweet tooth?
I used to have a very sweet tooth, but not so much now, but I think you still do.
I've always had a sweet tooth. That's not just one tooth that likes sweet things like chocolates and cakes. That's all of my teeth and all of my body. So if you have a very strong liking, you like it very much, things like cakes, pastries, candy, chocolate, desserts, then you have a sweet tooth. I have a very sweet tooth.
Although for you, the king of all sweets is definitely chocolate.
Yes.
You have a sweet tooth in general, but chocolate's the king for you, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
The next expression is a nice one. To grit your teeth. Grit is grit. And I think it kind of sounds like what it is. Grit. It's kind of short. It's hard. Grit. It's an abrupt word. And that kind of reflects the meaning. If you grit your teeth, you're a tough guy, yeah? You endure pain or difficulty or frustration with determination and without complaining, You can do it. It's hard, it's painful, but you can do it. Yeah. And it comes from the physical idea of, how when something's really painful, very often we instinctively, we put pressure on our teeth, the upper and the lower teeth kind of close, and obviously this is difficult to show without a video, but I'm putting my teeth together, I'm really angry or something's really painful. So if you grit your teeth, it's like it's hard, it's painful, but you're going to do it. You're determined to do it anyway.
As you know, Reza, I've had some rather painful tests done at the hospital recently, and I promise you I had to grit my teeth to get through those tests.
Yes, those tests you described to me would bring a tear to your eye.
Do you think, Reza, that all dental treatments should be free if you live in a country and you pay Social Security? Because we get free health care, don't we, from the doctor? Do you think all dentistry should be free or
no?
Or not?
Only some of it, only essential treatment, because then I think you'll get people abusing the system. For example, I don't think the services of a dental hygienist should be free, because if you maintain your teeth properly, then you shouldn't need to use a dental hygienist that much, even if you have problems of plaque like me, but that's my problem. And I don't mind having to pay a little bit of money every once in a while. But I don't like the idea of people thinking, I'm not going to look after my teeth. The health service will do that, so I don't care. I think that's a danger. Also, I don't want people getting implants on the health service because it costs a lot of money. I mean, I wasn't happy like Craig to have to pay a few £1,000s to get implants, but that's my problem. I could survive with a space in my mouth. I wouldn't look great, but I could. So it's not absolutely essential. So I don't see why that sort of thing should be on the health service. What do you think?
I agree with you. I'd also add to that cosmetic dentistry. For example, getting your teeth whitened or having something aesthetic done to your mouth for fashion reasons, just so you look better, then that should not be on the national health. You should pay out of your own pocket.
I'll tell you something, a little bit of trivia that a lot of people don't know, and don't ask me why I know. So in the United Kingdom, only some things are free on health service as regards dentistry. However, many, many more things, virtually all things which are necessary for your dental care are free if you are who?
A pensioner, maybe?
No, not for pensioners.
Pensioners?
No? What type of
veterans?
person?
People who
Not
fought in wars?
Nope. It's very sexist.
Family members of dentists?
You could say it's sexist. You could. It's not really, but sensible.
I don't know. Tell me.
Pregnant women.
Oh, right. Okay. I did not know that.
Yes. There are many, many things which are automatically free for pregnant women, but only for pregnant women. Why?
Not for pregnant men.
Not for pregnant men, no. Only because when a woman's pregnant, or indeed a man, when a woman's pregnant, if she doesn't look after her teeth, it can affect the unborn child very gravely.
How?
A lot of people are. A dental infection can kill your unborn baby.
Oh, an infection. If your mouth gets infected,
for
then
example,
the infection spreads and it can reach the unborn baby. Yeah, that makes sense.
From having a dental infection, your baby can die. So a lot of dental treatment, which wouldn't normally be free, is free for pregnant women in the United Kingdom. I don't know about Spain.
Yeah. Well, we started the podcast by saying that most people don't enjoy or like going to the dentist. And I do sympathize because my wife, before she retired, was a dentist. So I know very well that people tend to look at her in horror when she used to say that she was a dentist. But how can dentists make a visit to the dentist more pleasurable? What can dentists do to make it nicer for the public when they have to go?
Nothing.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. What do you think?
Well, maybe they could start without asking you questions and talking to you when their fingers are in your mouth, because that's really frustrating.
That's
and
a good point.
So are you going anywhere nice for your holidays, Craig?
Oh, yes. And how long for? I remember. Yeah.
But they understand you. I don't know how. Maybe soothing music in the dentist's surgery while you're waiting and you're listening to the sound of the drill. Maybe have some nice, soothing, relaxing music, not heavy metal.
That is a fascinating point, actually, that you brought up about dentists understanding you with their mouth, with their fingers in your mouth. They do, don't they? They ask you, oh, so Reza, what's your favorite group? So I've never met this dentist before in my life. What's your favorite group? And I go, like that. That's exactly the sound. And I said, the Beatles, he said, do you prefer Let It Be? Or it's like, what? You what the, there are 60 million groups in the world. How does he know that I said, was the Beatles? How did he know that? But he knew. It's incredible, isn't it?
Maybe that's a kind of a module they have to study when they're studying at dentistry school or medical school. They have to listen to tapes of people with fingers in their mouth or tools in their mouth, and they have to, like, listening for an exam to answer the questions.
That would be a difficult listening exam.
What did this patient say?
Yeah. Like the hardest writing exam a pharmacist ever does. So read that doctor's prescription. And there's a scroll which means nothing to anybody, but they say, oh yeah, 3 aspirin twice a day, 1 in the morning. It's like, how can you read that? No one can read that.
Impossible. Reza, I think you've got a joke to finish, haven't you?
Well, I must admit it's very poor compared to yours, but it's one to get our language learners thinking. What 2 letters are really bad for your teeth?
Which 2 letters of the alphabet are bad for your teeth? I don't know. Tell us.
DK.
Why?
DECAY.
Tooth decay. When your teeth are decaying and they're falling apart and disintegrating, that's decay. Decay. Very good. I like it. Decay.
By the way, you can say caries which is very similar to the Spanish word, but most people prefer to say tooth decay. Caries sounds very technical, doesn't it?
Yes. So remember to brush your teeth so that you don't get tooth decay. And now it's your turn to practice your English. You can send us a voice message if you have any comments or questions on this episode or future ideas for podcasts that we have not yet recorded. Go to our voice messaging app on the website. It's speakpipe.com, speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. There's also a link in the show notes. Again, inglespodcast.com/563. Emails, Reza?
If you prefer to write, you could send an email to craig@inglespodcast.com or belfastreza@gmail.com.
And if you're a Spanish speaker and you want to improve your English with free and paid resources, why not visit the Mansion Ingles website at mansioningles.com. And for paid products, you can browse the online store at store.mansioningles.net. We'd also like to thank our wonderful Patreon supporters who are supporting our work on this podcast. You can also join our Patreon program, and by doing so, you get instant access to the transcriptions of this podcast, and also you'll get invited to an informal Zoom meeting with me at some time in the very near future. Go to patreon.com/inglespodcast for more information.
We'd like to mention every single one of our Patreon supporters by name, but I'm afraid we don't have time for that. So as usual, we're just going to mention our most recent sponsors who've joined us this month, and they are Pablo Albert and Ana Ibarra, who has very kindly increased her support to €5. So thank you very much to you two, and indeed all our Patreon supporters.
In next week's episode, we continue with our podcast about the 5 senses, and next week it's sound. So join us to listen to things about sound next week. In the meantime, thank you for listening and keeping us company this week. Have a lovely week ahead. It's goodbye from me.
And it's bye-bye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.